What was your most serious thank I double check moment? I almost killed my niece's cat via washing machine. I was staying with my brother and his family for a bit when I first moved into the city. One day I threw a bunch of clothes in the machine, went back to my room to get a sweater, threw that into the machine on top of the curious feline that had jumped in while I was out of the room, poured in detergent, and just about closed the lid when I decided to double check the pocket of my sweater. As soon as I moved it, out jumped the cat. Never told anyone, but I made a point of checking from then on. Student pilot 8 years ago. Got fuel in a high wing training airplane. Instructor is ready to go. I had done the pre-flight before the fuel truck arrived. You can't see the fuel caps from the ground. I was about to start the engine but got out, hopped up on the step, and found both caps loose. I was at a four-way intersection at night when my light turned green. I was the only car on the road and in a hurry, but something in me felt like I needed to look left before I went. Right after I turned my head to look, a car without any headlights on ran the red light going probably 50 miles per hour. Had I just immediately gone instead of glancing left, I would have been T-boned and probably killed. Listen to your gut, people. I think this applies. So summer 2010, my family is having the inside of the house painted. Hot as f***. So my parents leave the upstairs window open day and night to let out the paint smell out and help it dry with the hot air. I really don't like this. I'm a naturally paranoid person. This went on for several weeks. We have a pretty big house. One day before I leave to school, I decided to go upstairs and shut the window and lock it. They can yell at me later if they want. When I came home that afternoon, the painter told me, hey, that the gas ladder you have on the side of the house was getting in the way, so I moved it. Hope that's okay. I responded, we don't have a biggest ladder. Apparently someone came up to the house and set up a ladder to get through the open window, but I'd closed it just by chance that day. I guess when they saw our painter coming they ditched it and split sans ladder. Oddly enough, my parents kept opening the window at night and during the day after all that shit. Edit. Yes, we came up on a free ladder, but I'm scared of heights. Answering exams and finished early. Double checked when the teacher reminded us that there was only 5 minutes left and saw that I hadn't answered the whole backside of a page. Luckily it was multiple choice, though. Was paying my mortgage online and almost added an extra digit to my payment amount. That would have sucked so bad because it could have wiped my checking account out. Almost submitted a test paper without my name on it. Almost forgot my room keys before a 6-hour drive back to my university. I once worked at a school where I had to look after the kids who stayed until their parents picked them up. Don't know what it's called in English. After school care? They usually had the classic little game where they would hide, and I pretended not to know where they were and told the parents that I hadn't seen them all day. Problem is that they would do this with 2 or 3 at a time and then come out all together. Usually. One time this kid started hiding with some others at around 6 PM, but didn't come out at all, so he kept hiding away until 7 PM at the end of my shift. Thank f that during my closing routine I found him in some ridiculous tiny little space, because I totally forgot about him. I had about 40 to 50 parents coming in between 6 and 7. When his mother came to pick him up way later than expected, I acted all jolly, but I seriously rolled closed off, since I really thought all the children left. Not a proud moment. Looking through papers to shred, I opened an envelope and inside was a $2,500 check. It was a week from expiring, and according to the paperwork, it was a refund from when we refinanced our mortgage. Very recently I changed a light bulb at work in a corridor that rarely got used. A long fluorescent bulb. As I was walking away, turning a corner, I realized the pitch of the hum of the light seemed off. Just seemed higher pitched than normal. I went back to check to make sure the light was on. It was on. On fire. Dunno if it was the bulb or fixture, but the whole thing was in flames. Light bulb was on though. Dealt with it, but if I had kept walking, building would have probably taken serious damage before sprinklers kicked in. A colleague saved me. I had printed around 500 letters for him, and when I handed them over he said the phone number didn't look right. I dialed it to check. It was a phone sex line. I had put 2 numbers the wrong way round. We changed our number after that in case any customers misdialed. So glad my colleague spotted it before those letters were sent. I've always made it a habit to double check to make sure the organ blower is turned off after a service, lesson, or practice session. The organ blower is 3-phase, many horsepower, and requires a lot of juice to run it. If it were left on overnight, the blower could overheat and cause a fire. Late one day after teaching, I double checked to be certain a student had turned the blower off after his hours of practice. Sure enough, it was still turned on and the blower was red hot. If I hadn't looked, there could been a fire in the building that night. Wake up late at night feeling thirsty. Everything is dark. I always keep a glass of water by the bed. I grope for the glass and grab it, and I'm about to take a swig when I suddenly think no, better check. So I put it down and stumble groggily over to the light and switch on, and there's a huge cockroach floating dead in the glass. This was before backup cameras. I put the car in reverse with my foot on the brake and turned to look behind me. I just saw the ponytail of a little girl disappear behind my car as she bent over to pick up a toy. Away in the distance her mom was running flat out, her face contorted in terror, like I've never seen before. Not really a double check, but that's my story. I joined a writing competition hosted by a uni once where you weren't allowed to write your name, but your paper would be identified by a number code, so the corrector wouldn't be biased, and almost submitted it with my name instead of my code. Ended up getting 3rd place and a 10% scholarship to one of the unis where I live. Citations on an English paper. Every fucking time. One time I was putting my hair straightener away, and I dropped it into the toilet. As soon as it hit the water, it started hissing and sizzling, and I assumed it was because it was still hot. For a second I went to reach over and yank it out, but then I was like, wait, it's still plugged in. It never tripped the safety switch that bathroom outlets usually have, because this house was old and didn't have bathroom outlets. I had to run a cheap extension cord from the office to the bathroom to do my hair. Literally almost grabbed a live electrical appliance that was shorting out in water. I had copied a porn link to send to my BF, ended up not sending it, and later was emailing my students to update them about something or other. Accidentally pasted the link into the email and almost sent 20 college students a link to Pornhub. Short term, printing everything off for a London-Edinburgh trip last year and realized when double checking our train tickets from London to Edinburgh were the wrong day. We still had one more day in London. Nothing could be done until we got to London, but if we hadn't noticed before getting to the train station the day out, it would have been costly. Long term, this stretch is double checked but still important. I tried to give blood a few times while I was in the Navy, but my iron was always too low, no matter what I ate recently. Decided to check it out. Tests done. Anemic. Doc asks if I want to just treat that, or go further. Of course, go further and find out why I'm anemic 18 months and zillions of tests later. Crohn's disease. Since caught while I was in the service I got a medical retirement discharge, some cash, a monthly stipend, and full health care. If I had just got the anemia treated, would have got out while sick deeper in and probably be a world of pain right now. I was driving a reach truck, working overnight at Home Depot. Another guy had crawled in to move a box. Dunno what the he was thinking. And I never double checked, because why the f would I? Always dead after that. If I hadn't he'd be dead. I was cleaning my room and throwing out a bunch of school papers, old envelopes, etc. I'm always nervous throwing out garbage bags in apartments. I guess the garbage chute seems more permanent than a bin that's collected weekly. Because there were so many papers and I was moving, I decided to double check the bag. I had an envelope of over $1,300 in savings bonds and tips I had hidden in my drawer earlier in the year. I felt like I made $1,300 that day. Veterinarian here. I asked for my assistant to bring me some glucose to inject into a 2-kilogram dog with hypoglycemia. He brings me this vial, and right as was about to open it, I looked at it, and it was potassium chloride, KCl, which is used for euthanasia. Both were the same size and shape, but the one that would stop the dog's heart had a big black stamp on it, so it wasn't so hard to differentiate them. Extra, a professor of mine during a surgery asked for an antibiotic which needs to be diluted before used to inject after surgery was done. The intern brought the vial, already diluted, but instead of putting injection water into the bottle, he had actually put KCl. As the professor was injecting the antibiotic, she noticed the heart of the dog was stopping, but fortunately, the amount needed to kill the animal was a bit higher and they were able to save it. When they asked and saw what he had actually put in the bottle, she went nuts on him for not double checking it before diluting. I don't know what happened to the student,